Hey everyone, before we dive into this story, please consider subscribing to my channel for more heartfelt narratives like this one. My name is Sarah Klein, and I'm 29 years old. For years, I thought my life was sufficient, nothing glamorous or extraordinary, just solid. I held a job as a systems analyst, which paid the bills and kept my pantry stocked. My routine was dependable, regular hours, decent salary, and benefits. It wasn't thrilling, but it offered the kind of calm stability I assumed everyone quietly craved. For 5 years, I shared that life with Ethan. To me, we were partners, bound by small traditions, lazy Sunday brunches with coffee, evenings where I'd pour my heart into cooking intricate dishes just to catch his grin. He always said my pasta bake was the best part of his week. We had private jokes no one else could decipher, comfortable silences that felt cozy rather than strained. I believed we were content. I believed he was content. But love doesn't disappear in an instant. It wears away gradually, like waves eroding a cliff. The first signs of fracture appeared when Ethan rekindled a friendship with an old college buddy. Suddenly, our quiet evenings were traded for invites to art exhibits, rooftop soirees, and chaotic loft parties filled with people tossing around cryptic talk of creative liberty and living unbound. At first, I tried to blend in, offering smiles, nodding along, even posing questions. But deep down, I felt like an intruder in a world that wasn't mine. Ethan, though, was captivated, coming home electrified, raving about embracing the moment and shattering monotony. One evening, over dinner, his gaze cut through me, sharper than I'd ever seen. "Sarah, don't you ever want something bigger than this?" he asked, his voice teetering between curiosity and blame. I faltered, unsure how to answer. Bigger? More chaos, more uncertainty, more isolation in packed rooms. I replied softly, "I'm happy. Isn't that enough?" He let out a dismissive huff, already scrolling through his phone. That moment marked the first time I sensed the chasm between us. Subtle, almost invisible, but wide enough to let a chill seep in. The breaking point hit at one of those parties, in a converted warehouse with bare brick walls, stark lighting, and music that pulsed through my bones instead of lifting my soul. Ethan thrived, weaving through groups of artists, laughing too boisterously, draping his arm around strangers. I hovered by the drink table, gripping a lukewarm beer, trying to anchor myself. A guy with a scarf indoors trapped me in a conversation about a performance piece involving flames and stillness. I nodded courteously, but my eyes scanned for Ethan. When I found him, he was marching toward me, his expression a mix of irritation and pity. Relief surged briefly. Maybe he'd seen my discomfort, maybe he'd pull me out. Instead, he tugged me into a shadowy corridor, away from the crowd. "What's wrong?" I asked, startled. His face was close, his voice low but biting, slicing through the thumping bass. "I can't believe you're just standing there like that," he snapped, his smile tight like he was scolding a child. "Do you realize how embarrassing that is?" The words didn't register at first, floating between us, waiting to wound. I forced a nervous chuckle, thinking I'd misheard. "Ethan, I'm just taking it all in. It's overwhelming." "No," he cut in, his eyes flashing with a contempt I'd never seen. "You don't get it. You don't belong here. Look around. These people have fire, ambition. And you're just dull, safe, predictable. You're embarrassing to be seen with." The word struck like a blade, precise and cruel. My smile collapsed. My stomach churned, my heart hammering as if trying to break free. My throat tightened, words trapped behind disbelief. I stared at Ethan, my Ethan, the man I'd loved for 5 years, as if he'd morphed into a stranger. He didn't wait for my reply. With a curt shake of his head, he let go of my wrist and vanished back into the noisy chaos, leaving me alone in that dim hallway, small and shaken. The music droned on, uncaring. But something inside me had fractured, and deep down, though I wasn't ready to admit it, I knew our story was unraveling. The drive home from that party was stifling. Ethan gripped the wheel with one hand, his eyes locked on the dark road, his jaw clenched. I sat wordless, staring out the window, his words echoing in my chest, embarrassing to be seen with. We didn't speak. A heavy, hostile silence, nothing like the warm quiet we used to share after long days. It felt like sitting in a storm with no rain to ease the tension. At home, Ethan went straight to the bedroom, shutting the door with a soft but deliberate click. I lingered in the living room, still in my coat, staring at shadows flickering across the wall from the streetlight outside. I wanted to sob, to shout, to demand answers, but nothing came, just silence. The next morning, he was at the kitchen table when I entered, a coffee mug in hand, a suitcase by his chair. My stomach plummeted. "Sarah," he started, his voice eerily calm, like he'd practiced this. "I've been thinking. We're not right for each other anymore." The words hit like glass shattering on stone. My breath caught, but I kept my face steady. "What do you mean?" My voice held firm, though a tremor stirred beneath. He looked at me with a detached pity. "You're okay with this life, and that's fine for you. But I can't stay stagnant. I need passion, growth, to live. And you?" He gestured vaguely around our apartment. "You're too settled, too predictable. It's stifling." I blinked back tears, refusing to crack. "Is this about her?" I asked, my throat tight. Her was Olivia, his new artist friend he'd been seeing constantly. "Don't lie to me." His lips twitched into a half smirk, half scoff. "This isn't about Olivia. It's about me. I've changed, Sarah. My priorities are different now. You should get that. Get that?" My mind roared at his hypocrisy, but I swallowed my anger. Instead, I asked, "So what now?" Ethan leaned back, sipping his coffee with infuriating calm. "You'll find someone else. Someone who wants your kind of life. Routine. Predictability. That's just not me anymore." My chest tightened, but my voice stayed even. 5 years, and this is what I get? A speech about how I bore you. He didn't respond. He set his mug down, walked to the bedroom, and returned with a half-packed suitcase, its zipper straining. Something in me snapped, not in defeat, but in clarity. Begging wouldn't sway him. Anger wouldn't keep him. He'd left me long before this moment. So, I did the only thing I could to preserve my dignity. I grabbed an old duffel bag from the closet and started packing, some clothes, my laptop, a few books. My hands shook, but my movements were deliberate. Ethan froze, watching me, his eyes widening slightly, as if this wasn't the reaction he'd expected. "You're leaving?" he asked, disbelief flickering. "Yes," I said simply, my voice quiet but resolute, forged from pain turned to steel. He didn't stop me. Maybe he thought I'd crawl back. Maybe he was too proud to imagine I could walk away without a fight. By midday, I stood at my sister Lena's doorstep, duffel bag over my shoulder. When she opened the door and saw my face, she didn't ask questions. She just wrapped me in a hug and murmured, "You're safe now." And just like that, the life I'd built for 5 years vanished, leaving only silence, betrayal, and the faint echo of a man who once loved me calling me an embarrassment. I didn't cry, not yet. That would come later, in the dark, alone. For now, Lena's embrace held me together as I wondered who I'd become from this wreckage. That first night on Lena's couch felt like sleeping in someone else's body. The cushions were soft, the blanket warm, but my bones ached in ways comfort couldn't soothe. Every time I closed my eyes, Ethan's words looped, "You're embarrassing to be seen with." They gnawed at the fragments of my self-worth. Lena never pushed for details. She left a mug of tea on the coffee table each evening, sometimes resting a gentle hand on my shoulder. She knew I needed silence more than questions, and for that I was thankful. Days melted into nights. I worked, ate, existed, but nothing filled the void Ethan left. The silence was deafening at first, rattling in my skull. I blocked his number, erased him from my social media, even logged out of shared accounts. I wanted him gone, not just from my phone, but from my universe. Yet, the quiet was deceptive. It choked me at first, then gradually began to revive me. One evening, Lena came home to find me in the kitchen, the oven light glowing. Inside was my pasta bake, the one Ethan used to praise. When it was done, I sat alone, cutting into the golden, bubbling crust. The flavor was unchanged, but it held no warmth, no shared laughter across the table. Each bite felt heavy, like swallowing memories that no longer belonged to me. I pushed the plate away and whispered into the empty kitchen, never again for him. Cooking, once our ritual, would now be mine alone. Not a gesture for someone else to dismiss, but a comfort I'd reclaim for myself. Weeks passed, and a subtle shift began. I found a small one-bedroom apartment near my office. It wasn't fancy, peeling paint in the bathroom, creaky floors, but it was mine. On my first night, I sprawled on the new gray sofa I'd chosen, surrounded by unopened boxes. The air smelled of cardboard and fresh paint. It wasn't home yet, but it felt like potential. I set up my computer in the corner, untouched for months, and cooked a simple meal, roasted chicken with herbs. I ate in silence, but this silence was different, not oppressive, not hostile, just mine. The emptiness inside me lingered, but bit by bit, I was filling it with pieces of a life that was solely mine. Then the outside world crept in. A text from Mark, a mutual friend. "Hey, Sarah, I know things ended rough with Ethan, but you should know something's up with him." My heart thudded as I stared at the screen, torn between ignoring it and letting his name back into my world. Curiosity won. Mark's next message arrived. It's about Olivia. Things aren't what they seemed. I set the phone down, breathing shallowly. For the first time in months, I felt something beyond grief, something sharp and restless. Maybe Ethan's shiny new life wasn't so flawless. Mark's message lingered all night. I didn't respond, but I couldn't shake it. By morning, a voicemail waited. "Sarah, just thought you should know, Ethan's struggling. Olivia left him. Turns out he wasn't who he claimed to be." I didn't need details to know Mark was right. My gut had sensed it all along. Ethan had chased a mirage, but the details came anyway. Olivia wasn't just his inspiration. She was his mirror, and she broke it. She exposed him as a fraud, a trust fund kid posing as an artist, leeching off her crowd until they saw through him. His new friends vanished as quickly as they'd appeared. For weeks, I heard whispers of Ethan's collapse through mutual friends. Each message, each call from people I hadn't spoken to in months, carried the same shock. We thought he had it all. Turns out he had nothing. Lisa, another friend, called me directly, her voice tight with regret. "Sarah, I owe you an apology. When you two broke up, I bought his story that you were holding him back, that you were small. But now I see he was just running from himself. He's lost everything." I listened, lips pressed thin. Once I would have craved this vindication, proof I wasn't the problem. Now I felt nothing, no triumph, no joy, just a quiet void. Then Ethan's attempts to reach me began. First, an unknown number. "Sarah, it's me. Please, just listen." Blocked. Then another. "I know I hurt you. Olivia was a mistake. She ruined me." Blocked. Finally, his desperation spilled through others. Mark texted, weary. "He won't stop talking about you. Says he wants you back." I don't know what to tell him. My reply was one word: no. The strangest part wasn't his persistence, it was my detachment. Months ago, his name would have shattered me. Now it was just noise. The man who once shaped my days had faded to static. I refused to amplify it. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't haunting, knowing he was unraveling while I was quietly rebuilding. One night, staring into the bathroom mirror, I whispered almost accusingly, "Why don't you feel anything?" I searched my reflection, waiting for guilt or pity to surface. Instead, I saw a woman who'd learned some wounds don't need closure. They heal with time, leaving scars you grow to carry. Still, I braced for the inevitable. Ethan wasn't one to let go easily. And after 5 years, I knew one truth. When his world crumbled, he'd come crawling back to mine. He did, on a quiet Sunday evening. My apartment smelled of roasted herbs and garlic from a chicken I'd cooked for myself. The windows were open, letting in crisp autumn air, and for the first time in months, I felt at ease in the stillness. Then, 3 sharp knocks. I froze. No one visited unannounced. Friends knew better, and Lena always called. Slowly, I approached the door, heart tightening with a mix of dread and certainty. There he was, Ethan, but not the Ethan I knew. His clothes were rumpled, hair messy, eyes sunken and red. The confident swagger that once defined him was gone, replaced by a man broken by his own choices. "Sarah," he whispered, voice cracking. "Thank God you're here. I've been trying to reach you. I didn't move, didn't invite him in. The stench of smoke and stale alcohol wafted from him, tainting the warmth of my home. Please, he pleaded, hands shaking. I made a mistake. Olivia used me. She destroyed everything. But you were real. You loved me when no one else did. I see that now. His words fell like dust. Once they would have softened me. Now they only confirmed what I'd already accepted. His love was fleeting, selfish. I stepped back, just enough to keep him out. His eyes scanned my apartment, the new sofa, the tidy kitchen, the humming computer, confusion flickering as if he couldn't square the space with the woman he'd dismissed. This is nice, he muttered, almost bitter. Then, louder, more desperate, Sarah, I need you. I miss us. I miss how you cared for me. I stood in the center of the room, arms crossed, a calm I didn't expect steadying me. Ethan, I said evenly, why are you here? His facade cracked, anger flashing beneath the desperation. Because you're supposed to forgive me. We were partners. You can't just discard that. His voice broke. I know I hurt you, but I was lost. Can't you see that? I shook my head. What I see is a man who made his choice. You wanted more than me, more excitement, more risk. You got it. He stepped closer, tears streaking his face. Sarah, please don't be so cold. I'm begging you. The memory hit me hard, his sneer in that warehouse hallway, his voice dripping with disdain. You're embarrassing to be seen with. I met his gaze, unwavering. You were right, Ethan. I was an embarrassment. And you wanted someone bolder, brighter, louder. You found her and you lost her. That's not my weight to bear. His shoulders sagged, the fight draining from him. He looked small, diminished. I can change, he whispered. No, I said firmly. You won't. And even if you could, I wouldn't want you back. My life is peaceful now. It's mine, and you have no place in it. I opened the door and gestured outward, my face showing no anger, no joy, only finality. This is done. For a moment, he stood frozen, disbelief in his eyes. Then he shuffled past me, footsteps heavy. I closed the door with a quiet click, shutting him out of my home, my heart, my future. Silence settled, deep and whole. I leaned against the door, breathing in the calm. For the first time in years, I felt free. Not just from him, but from the version of myself who thought love meant clinging to pain. I returned to my kitchen, plated my dinner, and sat down. The food was still warm, and for the first time in a long time, it tasted like peace.